Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. We'll be starting with the session in a minute.
A very warm greeting to one and all present here today. Before beginning with the session, please make a note of the rules and instructions which are to be followed throughout the webinar. You can switch on your videos, but kindly keep yourself on mute at all times. Please try to log in through your laptop so as to get a better visual experience. The forum will be open for questions and answers later, so kindly post your queries in the chat box only. Good afternoon to each and everyone present here. I, Amisha, on behalf of the institution's Innovation Council of Shaheed Rajguru College of Applied Sciences for Women, University of Delhi, would like to welcome Mr. Anil K Peri, the speaker for today's webinar. I would also like to extend a wholehearted welcome to our esteemed principal, Dr. Payal Mago, and the president of IIC, Dr. Ranjana Singh. I would like to extend our sincere and heartfelt welcome to all the scholarly and knowledgeable teachers and to all the thoughtful and attentive audience present here. We are truly humbled beyond measure for such an overwhelming response. The business model canvas is a tool to help you understand a business model in a straightforward and structured way. Using this canvas will lead to insights about the customers you serve, what value propositions are offered through what channels, and how your company makes money. We are honored to have Mr. Anil K. Peri as our speaker for today's session. Mr. Anil K. Peri is the founder and CEO of Swiftskill.
Thank you so much, team. I hope I'm allowed to talk now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can someone? All right. Thank you so much. So first things first, my sincere apologies, for all the last-minute shifts that has happened, and I'm so sorry to the entire team because I wasn't totally aware of that, and it was just a double accounting of the calendar. Sincere thanks to everyone who's present here. So I hope I can share my screen just so that everything goes well enough.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Just give me a moment, please. Perfect. Could you all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So first, again. So basically, who am I? I'm not sure if many of you have heard about Swiftskill because it's a relatively new company out there. So I'm Anil, and I'm the co-founder of Swiftskill. So what we essentially do is we basically help gamers understand their mistakes and improvise their gameplay so that they can make a career in gaming. So in simplest of terms, we are Google Analytics for gamers. We just give them data. We help them understand how to improve their gameplay and basically how to brag in front of their friends. So why you should be listening to me for about the business model canvas. So I've got a good experience with entrepreneurship. I have been doing this business company, all of that stuff for a good time now. And most importantly, the founder or the creator of business model canvas, which is Mr. Alexander Osterwalder, he was one of the teachers who taught us business model canvas at Cranfield University. So I have heard it directly from the person who have found it, and then I just have my own insights about how this whole thing's going to happen. I'll try to keep the session short, and if you have any questions, just feel free to throw them in the chat box, and I'm going to answer them. So I started my first business, and that was not my first company, when I was 15, right? And then it was more or less like a hyper local delivery thing, which nowadays is known as Big Basket and whatnot. It was more related to my colony people who just wanted to make some money out of it. And then my first company was Externship Now, which basically was an internship portal, but used social media analysis to help to determine the person's personality. And then, in about 18 months of finding it, and then we just exited the company and just made some money out of it. Now we have, of course, I'm working on Swiftskill. We have so far raised 2 crore rupees in investment. And again, we are also working on the next rounds. And also, more or less, I'm a part-time entrepreneurship and innovation consultant. I help companies just derive different market spaces and how do you basically they redirect their resources and get to a profitable stage. Okay. As someone mentioned here about the business model canvas, yes, it's a fantastic tool to help you understand the key elements of the business. and it consists purely of 9 different steps. I'm going to go through with an example rather than just blabbering about all of this, because it doesn't make sense just to keep talking about all of these highly used terms, but at the same time highly misunderstood terms. But we're gonna just cover these on a very simple structure, which I call, like, there's a pattern towards filling this whole thing, right? And I'm so sorry for this drawing. I was in the flight when I was just trying to get this whole thing done. So yeah, it's a bit messed up, but then this is how you should be working on the business model canvas. Any business model canvas, as quoted by Mr. Osterwalder, the founder of, the creator of business model canvas, you have to keep in mind the problem statement, or basically what's the baseline for this whole canvas. It could be something as simple as people, like gamers, don't know how to get better. They don't know how to get better, right? So, but that's just the baseline out of it. It is never written on the canvas. It's always in the back of your mind when you're just building a canvas out of it. So you start with the customer segments, which basically means who are you building this whole business for, right? And then you just then immediately move to what's the value they're going to get out of it. So basically, if we are building Swiftskill for gamers, what's the value they're going to get? With Swiftskill, so we are building it for aspiring professional gamers aged 18 to 24. That's the first customer segment that I'm looking at. And you can have multiple customer segments, but you need to understand that each customer segment needs to have its equal or equated other columns and other stuff filled as well. So what's the value these 18 to 24-year-old gamers will get? They will make a career in gaming. They could be streamers. They could become influencers. So we are helping them just get that pedestal. Now, next, what are the channels to reach to them? It could be social media. It could be anything as such. So you need to focus on, it all starts from who your customer is, what value do they get, how do you reach to them, and then how do you establish a relationship with them, right? So first you reach to them, and then you start building a relationship. That's a baseline of any business. You have to be very well connected with your customers. If you're not, things won't work out. It's a very simple thing that you have to be very careful about. And then the next thing that you would want to focus on is, now that you have built a relationship with your customers, how will you make money out of it? Not from the relationship, but from the customers. Relationships just help, keep the revenue inflow. Then you would be thinking about the resources that you're going to be putting in, just to make sure that the promised solution or the promised value proposition is delivered to them through the activities, or which we call the key activities, using key partners. Like it could be someone as simple as reaching out to community builders, reaching out to tournament organizers for us, and everything. And then comes the cost structure. In cost, we always account for the money which we're going to spend, or basically the cost of goods sold. Now, that's a very boring stuff. Totally agreed, right? So let's just think about it in terms of Google's example. I followed the same step. It's an order right now. So we could just think about Google's business model canvas in a very simple format. It's not Google's entire business model canvas. It's very huge. We can't do that in about 10-15 minutes at anywhere. So it's purely on the Google's search business model canvas. Why do you get Google search for free? Or why do you get any search engine for free at any point? So whenever something's free, this is a very good quote, right? Whenever something's free, you're the product, right? So we're going to be focusing on that as well. So for Google, so who are the customer segments? It's a very vast segmentation on the internet users and developers. The value proposition is very clear. You're going to be getting a free search engine, and you're going to be getting targeted ads. That means you won't get ads about, let us say, plumbing equipment if you are not a plumber. It's a very simple thing. And how would you reach out to the customers, or how do you build relationships? Through global sales, which basically means that you would push your product to them. And then you would be establishing dedicated sales for larger accounts. There could be people who would be paying like £1 million or £2 million a month. So you would want a dedicated sales team for them. And then what are the revenue streams? How are you going to make money out of all of these value proposition and everything that you have mentioned? That's purely through advertising. You get advertising revenues and whatnot. You have to maintain your IT infrastructure. So I treat key resources, activities, and partners in one, because if you want to separate that, that doesn't help, because these are the main, or you can simply say the heart of the model. If these three doesn't exist, the model or the entire business is flawed. You can't simply build the business without these three elements. So you have to think of this in one sentence, not just as three different phrases. And then cost structure. So basically, this is a little boring thing, to be very honest. I wanted to talk to you all about, since I believe you guys, or you people, are more into business side of it. You should be learning something what we call lean canvas model rather than business model canvas. And there's a simple reason behind that. Business model canvas is very relevant even for larger scale companies. But when you start out as a small scale company, when you reach out to the investors or anyone, as a matter of fact, there would be something which we call the problem, solution, market fit, unique value proposition, and all of these elements are considered when you're in the early stages of your company. So you need to account those. And in business model canvas, those elements are kept at the back of your mind. They're never put on paper, right? So you have to put things on paper. Now, you might be wondering, why is this even a good thing, right? So basically, when you're building a company, you have, as I said again, and then I'll say it again 100 times, 1,000 times, you have to focus on the problem that the business is trying to solve. You can't simply start with the customer again. You have to think, what's the problem that the customer is facing? In the business model canvas, you start with customers. We basically, when you're trying to build a lean canvas model, we keep the problem right then and there. It's a starting point, more or less. And then lean canvas model eval takes into consideration key metrics rather than key partners and resources and everything as such, because when you are building a company, you need to make sure that your direction is right. So you have to set forward, let us say, a few metrics that you would be continuously tracking. It could be something as simple as number of website visitors, very simple one, or it could be super complicated as, let us say, the CAC is to LTV ratio, whatnot. And then again, this is a third thing which a lot of mentors, when I say mentors, because a lot of people I know have definitely misunderstood this whole point, that there's a huge uncertainty when you're building a company. And you need to account for that. You need to make sure that there's always a room for error and there's always a room for improvement. And these big people, like, you can just start talking, like the coaches, like who not, they all just leave this out. If you are not a founder yourself, you would definitely miss this out, and business model canvas doesn't account for that. And if you just go around and search on YouTube about Alexander Osterwalder's maybe second or third video on business model canvas, he has particularly and explicitly mentioned this himself, that yes, he did not take into account the conditions or the uncertainty at all. So lean canvas model, you can just put it on paper. There are different versions of it. Oh, by the way, this lean canvas model is founded by an Indian, like one of us, called Ash Maurya. There's a fantastic book by him. I would suggest every single person who's here to read through that, because you will be you're going to be gaining maybe a knowledge of 10 books just from that one, because he definitely has made it extremely simple to understand how do you scale lean and how do you grow lean. So lean methodology, if you are not aware of, I wish I could just do something like on this, but then maybe if you guys are like aware of lean methodology, could you just drop something in chat, let us say hi or one or something in the chat, say that's fine. So does that mean that no one's aware of the lean canvas model or lean methodology, or how do I say it? Or am I not audible at all? Is there any problem with that? All right. Okay. So no problem. I can try just to keep it really short and sweet. When you're building a business, you would be reaching out. You have a product. you reach out to your customers, right? And there's always a continuous loop, and there's always a loop. You build something, you go to the customers and say, hey, see, I built this for you. Do you want to use it? And they're going to use, they will use it, and they say, nah, I don't like this. I want this to be changed. I don't like this feature. Then you go back to the development phase. Now, this whole loop is what we call lean methodology. Basically, it's like build, take feedback, and then reach out to customers, and then it's a cycle of that. So that's what lean methodology is. I would really suggest everyone here to read Lean Startup by Eric Ries. It would be a huge addition for everyone who's willing to go into entrepreneurship. On that topic, is anyone here working on their own business idea or has any plans of working on their own business? So you can just drop, let us say, whatever, like hi or like 1, 2 or whatever it is. It's just totally fine. Just try to keep it a little interactive if that's fine with you all. All right, no problem. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I believe you guys are all students, so I mean, yeah, it takes a little while to get the entrepreneurship into all of that stuff. That's fine, no problem. So we'll just focus on the key things about the Canvas model. So there's a fundamental difference, and I would advise you all to talk to founders, talk to actual founders, the ones who have built companies and have raised money. Because when I was raising money and before me raising investment, I can give you in written that I was a very different person. I had a lot of free time. I had a lot of different interests and whatnot. But the moment you raise your funds for the company, you become a different founder. You experience what we actually call a founder shift. You would become a very totally different person. So I would suggest you guys all to reach out to, like, there's a fantastic entrepreneur out there, like in India. She's Smriti. She's the founder of Stack Finance. I haven't seen anyone, at least, like so dynamic, and like, trust me, she inspires me even till date. I mean, whenever I just go through her posts and whatnot, and it would be really good for you all to be connected, because I believe that entrepreneurship is the only neutral field where you could just shine on the strength of the problem you're able to grasp, and that's something you have to be very strong about, right? So let's focus on the Canvas model. So you start off with the problem. Like us, we started off with gamers don't have any analytical website. Now, we already have covered like the gamers, right? So, but who are these gamers? Now you define each and individual customer segment, and I call this customer persona. Basically, अगर इसको हम लोग थोड़ा सा तोड़ दे इसको, तो अगर मान लीजिए कि आपके पास like there are 1,000 people standing in front of you, और आप उन लोगों से सिर्फ 3 सवाल पूछो, और उस 3 सवाल पूछने के बाद you should be able to determine, say कि yep, you are my customer, could you just move right? You should be able to differentiate people on 3 basic questions. It could be something as simple as age, the age range, 18 to 24 for us, the interest, 3 घंटे से ज़्यादा गेम खेलना चाहिए इसको, and motivation, but like कि हाँ उसको career बनाना है gaming में, he or she wants to be a professional gamer or a streamer. So these 3 questions are enough for me to take, let us say, a crowd of 1,000 people, to separate them and be like, okay, yeah, come up. You definitely are my customer. Thank you. But you are not, like, you should be able to differentiate. And that's what the customer segment is all about. Then you go to the unique value proposition, which essentially is how are you different from any other service that is even close to your existence? Microsoft Office Word आप सब लोग use करते हैं, Google Docs आप सब लोग use करते हैं. What's the fundamental difference is something you need to think about. And why are these both services coexisting? I mean, on one side, you can see that Amazon versus Reliance, and then Reliance taking over all of these future retail has been the latest news, right? Then how is this even coexisting in a simple place, right? It's a very competitive market. there has to be something unique, just more or less like a food for your thought, so that आप आराम से बैठ के थोड़ा सोचे कि ये बंदा लंच टाइम पे आके हम लोग का दिमाग खा रहा था, तो एटलीस्ट चलो थोड़ा सा हम लोग भी लगाए दिमाग. Next comes, now that you have this whole 3 points set out, you'll have to focus on the solution part. Now that you have thought about, okay, what's the value that I'm going to create for this customer segment, solving this problem? Now, how do I mix these 3 elements to form a solution? And trust me, when you mix the first 3 points or merge the first 3 points, you would be getting thousands of solutions. And when I say thousands, literally thousands. Start with the lowest hanging fruit, or basically start with the easiest one. Trust me, it definitely works the most, because हम लोगों ने वही गलती की थी कि we were like कि नहीं हम लोग एकदम बहुत बड़ा वेबसाइट बना देंगे, बहुत बड़ा सॉफ्टवेयर बना लेंगे, and what not. It didn't work out. Okay, and I have seen my fair share of failures with product, with customers, and with whatnot, and investors as well. So this comes purely from experience. Right, start with the smallest, like the easiest one, and then you work your way up from easiest way to the position where you have a unique or an unfair advantage, which basically means you build your community, your customers का community आप ऐसे बना लेते हो कि the competitor, if anyone wants to compete with you, they get afraid of your community. क्यों? क्योंकि they are very confident कि उनका community से कोई जाके they're gonna, their secrets or their business secrets would be revealed very quickly rather than the other way around. And execution again. Execution is important for sure. Execution की ही बात करेंगे हम लोग. We will not talk about idea and $1 million ideas. We would definitely talk about $1 billion execution. That's it. And then comes the cost structure कि आप revenue कैसे कमाएंगे and cost structure क्या होगा. Key metrics is something I would suggest कि आप लोग सिर्फ 3 रखिए अपने दिमाग में. Not more than 3. It could be something as simple as website visits, app downloads, and whatnot, and channels on how you're gonna be reaching out to these customers, right? So, just taking out a simple example of Uber. आप सब लोग Uber use कर चुके होंगे. Could we just try to at least get some high yes and whatnot if you have guys used Uber at least, or is it just going to be a pure monotonous thing where I'm just going to be speaking like blah blah blah? अगर आप लोग Uber यूज किए हैं, Ola यूज किए हैं कैब्स में, please just no need for sir, just type in yes, that's fine, no problem at all, just go for it, just so that I'm aware कि आप सब लोग सुन रहे हैं, at least कि कुछ समझ में अगर doubts होगा तो I'll be more than happy to answer, but then I just need to make sure that the message is communicating properly enough. Thank you, Amisha, Amen, and Ritika, thank you very much. So focusing on this, Uber का example बहुत simple है. Problem सिर्फ ये कि आपको जब भी कैब चाहिए नहीं मिलता था उस टाइम पे when it was started. Basically, you have to know कि taxi का stands किधर है, what were the common places where the taxis would be there, and whatnot. And then customer segments, anyone who's internet savvy. And when we say internet savvy, basically the innovation distribution में, the early adopters are the ones who were very savvy with internet, who would have phones, smartphones and whatnot. So what's the value proposition? Now, this is something I would definitely advise you all to think for others, like for other value propositions for Uber, because Uber has now have more than 50-60 unique value propositions. You all can think of it one each, and then you'd still have a few more left. So for this example, we can just take it like taxi service on a click of button. Just think of it, how innovative it was back in time. कि आप सिर्फ एक बटन क्लिक कर रहे हो एंड आपके पास एक टैक्सी आ रहा है, जबकि आपको पहले टैक्सी स्टैंड्स खोजना पड़ता था, पार्किंग स्पेसेस, व्हाट नॉट. It was the game changer. Now, when you mix these three, the easiest and the simplest one was आप बस बटन क्लिक कीजिए, आपके लोकेशन पे हम लोग आके आपको पिक कर लेंगे. That was the simplest solution. Now it's a lot more complicated. Like it's a lot more, diversified as a business. Now then you think about unfair advantage. कि क्या unfair advantage हो सकता है इन लोग के लिए? And that is brand awareness. So back in India, जब हम इंडिया में थे, I have never used Ola on personally. कभी कभी दोस्त लोग साथ जाते थे for sure, because once I used Ola and I had a bad experience, and it was never like solved, or it was never resolved basically. On the side of Uber, it was like in minutes, literally in minutes, and everything was sorted out. And they found a lifetime customer in me, and I have had more than 10,000 trips with Uber and maybe less than 5 trips on Ola, right? So that's just how it was. Not just the brand awareness, but it was more or less like the customer experience out of it. And that's an unfair advantage for a lot of companies. For a really large number of companies, all you have to do is जो भी आपका customer है, just treat them like they mean everything to you, because they definitely mean everything to you. It's just that you have to be aware of that. Revenue streams, very simple. Which percentage cut at 25%? It was back in time. Abhi, it's a lot more, definitely higher because of Uber Eats and whatnot. So yeah. And then cost structure, सबसे बड़ा cost इन लोगों का हमेशा रहता है marketing and PR में, क्योंकि they don't want to, like back in like a few years ago, a few months ago, London में issue हुआ था in the UK itself कि the black cab basically, the ones which are natives here, they were experiencing since Uber doesn't treat cab drivers as employees, which basically means that they treat them as contractors. The regional laws doesn't allow that, and then there was a strike. So there was a huge PR hit on these companies, Uber and others as such. It's a huge cost structure to take care of. And then the key metrics, which Uber, of course, focuses till date is trips booked, because it just shows how many trips you have booked and then how things work out. Like your customer retention and everything is based on that simple thing. And the channels to reach out to customers was purely friend referrals. I had invited more than 70 of my friends to Uber when it was like first using it, not just for like there was some sort of discount or something, uske liye to nahi tha, but it was because of the amazing customer service that I have had. So Chili, that's it from me. I believe I just wanted to give you guys a little about kya hai lean model canvas, kya hai business model canvas, because you would find all of this on internet. What I wanted to focus more with you all people was to interact a little, to see if you have your own business idea. Maybe if you have your own business idea, you could just throw your own business idea in one sentence, and that would be a huge thing. I think maybe we can just definitely talk about it. But if you have any questions as such, which you would want me to cover on, please go through it. And yeah, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. So that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. It was indeed very informative. We will now proceed towards answering your queries. Please post your questions in the chat box. All your doubts will be answered accordingly.
I believe there are no questions about it. I'm sure I just bored everything out of these people out there. Nice people out. Just if you have any questions, like feel free to just throw in. Yeah, since in the interest of time as well, if you are not comfortable like discussing on a public forum, I'm more than happy to be connected on Twitter or LinkedIn, because I use both of them aggressively. Of course, all of your information will be treated confidentially. If you want me to sign an NDA, that's fine. You can do that. But just actually nice. I would really love to interact with you all people. Like India is on a very good stage for a startup and for scale-ups, unlike the other parts of the world where we are. Some markets are advanced in India, some are still in nascent stages. So whatever your idea is, just maybe go through it. That's just it from me actually. And then, yeah, happy to answer any questions. And if there are no questions, that's just fine. It's not something super anticipated as a matter of fact, because it's one of the simplest of topics out there. So just feel free.
Thank you, sir. The institution's Innovation Council extends sincere gratitude to Mr. Anil K Peri for delivering this session today and briefing us about the business model canvas and how it works. Thank you for taking out time from your busy schedule and joining us. We extend our deepest thanks to our principal ma'am, Dr. Payal Mago, for being a pillar of support and strength. We would like to extend our heartiest thanks to all the teachers for their constant support and guidance. Last but not the least, we would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to the audience for showing your keen interest in this webinar. We hope you had an amazing time.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a really, really good weekend, probably, and then enjoy the time. See ya.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.